Dr. Shivani, welcome to the Low Carb Hustle podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for taking time out of your day to come chat with us.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
So I'm really excited to dive in with you, talk a little bit about some of like the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda. I also want to talk about inflammation a lot. And can you just give us a little bit of a background on who you are and why you're so passionate about those two topics?
For sure. So I studied Ayurveda when I was young because growing up, I always had gut health issues. I would get chronically sick. We would travel through India. No matter what happened, I would be the one who fell sick. And so I always thought I have this weaker template. Later, I learned it was my chronic antibiotic use because back then, if you got sick, you went to the doctor. They'd always give you an antibiotic in pediatrics. And so after years of taking really strong antibiotics, I had basically destroyed my gut. And so I was in India one time, disastrously sick, and this doctor was ready to prescribe me crazy antibiotics and meds. And I said, what are you doing to me? Can we talk about it? Can we downgrade that antibiotic? Can you give me a probiotic? Can we not take 11 medicines for symptoms that have side effects that'll give me more symptoms? And so that was really my turning point. And that's when I went on this quest through India. I realized that Ayurveda has this profound toolkit, and it's a system of medicine that's over 5,000 years old. It carries this ancient wisdom within it that if we just embody and practice that lifestyle, we can not only reverse a lot of the health struggles that we've kind of had come upon us or that we've created in our own lives. And then as we go forward, really building preventive health, really having that power to reverse these effects of aging that we don't realize are typically inflammation or just living in like a lack of congruence with nature, living an incongruent lifestyle. And once we bring things back into alignment, the goal of Ayurveda is to bring body, mind, and spirit into alignment.
Got it. Can you talk a little bit more about that for someone who's maybe never heard that term before?
Sure. So Ayurveda means the science of life. It's this ancient system of medicine from India, over 5,000 years old, and it encompasses a lot of wisdom around health. So the ancient texts talked about, I have them right behind me, they talked about surgery, they talked about all the subspecialties of medicine. So if you can imagine, we think of medicine as we see it now, but it was already thought about and thought through thousands of years ago. But within Ayurveda, our main goal is to show you how to live a preventive lifestyle. So we show you how to live according to your circadian rhythm, how to understand your individual mind-body constitution and how that dosha or constitution is the driving force in terms of how you behave, how you think, and how your physical health manifests in your lifetime. So understanding your doshic constitution is really important. Then we teach about this thing called the sattvic diet, a more balanced, healthy, plant-based diet that gives you nutrient density and nutrient variety that's preventive, not just eating whatever we see that we think is good. Then we talk a lot about self-care rituals that are detoxing. We teach you about detoxing at the intersection of seasons throughout your year. And then finally, we talk a lot about the super spices. And I love the spices because if we use those spices from Mother Earth, we can create really profound change in our body. So those are some of the highlights from Ayurveda that I love to teach. But when people go to an Ayurvedic doctor with really serious health issues, Ayurveda can assess like, oh, is it from the gut? Is it from here? Is it from there? And based on that, build a plan for you that's more holistic to help approach that health issue.
And I think a lot of people are really interested in this right now because our current health system, especially in the United States, is so based off of symptom management.
Correct.
And we're never really looking at the root cause and how to get back to things. That's why we're stacking up different medications that have side effects. And then you have to deal with it, get a new medication to deal with the side effects from that one. And then you're seeing just the pharmaceuticals get being advertised on TV, and they're like, at the end, they're like, and you're going to see diarrhea and cancer, and you're going to definitely pee your pants on this one. You're like, whoa, hold up. Like that sounds like you're giving me more problems than you're solving.
Exactly.
So how can someone start looking at some of these principles? You mentioned dosha as being kind of like our individual body constitution. How do we even start like learning about this, or what's a first stop in like exploring this journey a little bit more?
So taking a dosha quiz is the perfect first step because once you take that quiz, I have one on my website at shivanigupta.com, but when you take that quiz, you'll see it'll kick out an answer. And oftentimes people will email me back and say, how did you know all that about me? And it's not that I know, it's ancient wisdom. Ayurveda taught us that we're made of the elements from nature, and those driving forces of elements from nature are what's driving us. So for example, you might have someone who's more thin and wiry, who's more active and always in motion. That's a vata person. And so a vata person is air and ether. It's kind of like a ceiling fan. It never stops. It keeps moving. And so we support that person differently. If you're that person who's always running and moving, let's ground you. Let's support you in eating 3 square meals a day. Let's help your digestion. Let's help your disrupted sleep, disrupted gut, constipation and dryness, or tendency towards anxiety. Those are some of the issues that a vata could have. Or if you're pitta, I'm a pitta. Pitta people are fire with some water. So this is someone who's got reddish skin tone, maybe reddish hair. We have a tendency towards early graying. A pitta person's medium bodied, and their personality is very sharp. So they're very ambitious, driven. So a pitta person, if out of balance, has inflammation, heartburn, overreaction, frustration, and anger. And so the job we have is to cool the pitta person down with food, lifestyle, sleep, certain seasonal eating, understanding the season in which their dosha is exacerbated. And then finally, you have Gupha. That's Mother Earth energy. That's someone with earth and water. So this is someone who's bigger boned, stronger, can lift heavier, round features, maybe curly, oily hair and oily skin. So that person's very one thing at a time. And our job is to support them and say, okay, let's kick up that metabolism. Let's get you moving. Let's get your energy moving for the day. But let's do so in a really sympathetic way, knowing that you're not going to be like a marathon runner. You're going to be different. You're going to need to support yourself differently. And let's support you to be your happy, caretaking, loving, kind self, because that's the energy of earth. And so once you kind of understand your primary and your secondary dosha, you can actually approach your health, how you eat, your entire rhythm of your day in a completely different way.
That's really unique because I feel like, the closest we get to that in the health and fitness space is the idea of like the mesotypes, you
Exactly.
know, like kind of, and I think that like there probably some overlap there, but I
Exactly.
really like the idea of approaching your health, your fitness, your nutrition from more of a customized standpoint based off of what you need, as well as what you said about the seasons really resonates because I think, in today's current environment, like we're getting mangoes during the winter here in Arizona. And
Exactly.
that's not like the natural order of things. So I like approaching things with kind of this ancient wisdom, looking at how we should be changing our diet, our sleep, our movement according to the seasons, according to our body types. Can you talk a little bit more about like the seasonal detox you mentioned earlier, as well as how do you change to accommodate the times when you are out of alignment during like the season?
Sure. So, for example, a pitta dosha, fiery person, should not overdo things in the summer. In the summer, it's the hottest. So, spring leading into summer is when your constitution can likely be out of balance. It'll be over exacerbated. So, for me, I'm a pitta. I start my year and I already plan out the entire year. I know that when it's cold and cool, I'm fueled to do my work. So, January till about May, I can gun it and hit my business at 100 miles an hour and win on all fronts. But you hit Memorial Day and all of a sudden there's a shift. And before I never like caught it or acknowledged it. I said, you know what? I hustle all year round. Nothing's going to stop me. And I've now matured with this idea of Ayurveda and realized, you know what? If I just take a big break, then if I just stop and chill and go to a cooler place than South Florida, I actually come back recharged for the rest of the year. And so I no longer hustle and grind through the summer. I take bigger breaks. I stay more indoors. If my business is sales driven, I won't go out to sell in person in the summer. All people who want me to speak outdoors, I say, no, 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 you can wait till the fall. I won't do it because I will overheat, over burn out, and then I become a burnt out person. And then come fall season, I'm hitting my stride. I just have to be careful because fall season is vata. That's where air and ether happens. That's why you see a lot of overburn and burnt out in the fall season. And then approaching winter, again, I'm supported to enjoy the holidays and work and do those things. So it's really this awareness of each season can be exacerbated based on your dosha. Vata is fall season. So right before that, where summer meets fall, is actually when a vata person is best supported to detox and clean and clear the past and enter that season healthy and balanced and whole, and with the awareness of what they need to do to stay whole. And then coming forward into winter, that's hibernation season. That's when Mother Earth closes down. So you can see how that could be Gupha season when we're meant to slow down, settle down a little bit and be grounded and not up in the air and all over the place. So it's this deep understanding of seasonality and how we are circadian beings, how if we live in according to the seasons instead of against the seasons, we're actually more supported to have the fuel, the energy that we want. So even my workouts, I shift for the summer. I'm usually very gung ho, lifting, protein, creatine. Like I have such a driven focus year round, but I take that 3 month period and I just drop it down a touch. It's more about yoga and walking. It's a little less about the pushing. Maybe I'm in maintenance mode with my workouts and I can play more with diet, but I won't push as hard physically because I will overheat in that season. Even if you're living in a place where you don't experience all the seasons exist. So in South Florida, when it becomes fall and it's still 100 degrees outside, I pull out the pumpkins just to indicate to my mind, hey, we're going to shift, eat those seasonal foods. Remind yourself to shift into that season ahead. And so those intersections of seasons for detoxing are between spring and summer, summer and fall, fall and winter. Although once it gets cold, you don't want to do any sort of juice detoxing or anything that's too cold. You can switch to eating soups and warmer things instead, bone broth, these ideas. But intersection of season detoxing is very important to really clear the decks, to clear the lymphatic system, to clear inflammation out of our system, to get us supported and healthy and whole as we're approaching that next season.
That makes a lot of sense, and it sounds just very intuitive when you put it like that. I've always had a weird thought around the New Year's
Mm,
and how like New Year's is this big push for change, resolutions, growth, pushing, but it's also like the darkest time of the year. And
true.
Arizona, I mean, it's gorgeous right now. It's like 65 degrees and sunny. But like when I lived in Seattle for the New Year, the sun was going down at like 4:30 and rising at like 10. It was just I didn't believe in seasonal affective disorder until I was like, whoa, I am having a bad time up here.
Yeah. And
And you
people
want me
feel
to you want me to set new resolutions? You want me to go to the gym 6 days a week? Nah.
exactly. Exactly. They say that New Year's makes no sense and we should live according to what is it called? Solstice. Like we should pay attention to when actually the moon stars and season changes. Spring is renewal. Spring is when everything sprouts out of the ground. So energetically, spring is when we have that support. So I always laugh when those memes come out in February that are like, this is January 1st again. Redo. And I'm like, it's redo because we weren't ready January 1st. And that's
Yeah.
okay. Like ease in, build. I call it just habit stacking. So I do start the new year with that new year energy, but to
Mhm.
me it just means get cleared up and consistent with each habit that you were gonna hold year round, but they might have dropped 20% because it was the holidays.
Yeah. And I like the idea, like you mentioned about the summers of like going into shifting into more maintenance mode, especially like, as it aligns with like school schedules and stuff, and you're traveling a little bit more. And I think that having an idea where you're going to go to the gym and do X, Y, and Z thing and be super, super consistent can just lead to frustration and burnout because your schedule and your travel don't really align with that. So I love the idea of setting yourself up in a way to win, like even outside of the Ayurvedic principles of like looking at your own schedule and what are your kids doing in school and how can
Yeah.
you accommodate all of those things with your workout instead of trying to jam a square peg into a round hole.
It's very true. Very true. Whenever my kids had camp at 9, I was like, you've killed my workout. You're killing my whole life. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. You chose the camps and you signed up. So how do we make this all work?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the super spices because I know
Yes.
that I think that one of the things that I see most with my clients and just in general right now is just inflammation and bloating. And when you see someone who just looks inflamed, they just don't look well because of our current levels of toxicity in our environment, things we're absorbing, and just like the fact that Oreos are a vegan food. People are like it's plant based, right? So how can we use some of these super spices as a way of actually transforming our health and reducing inflammation? Because I think that people are often, especially at the start, more likely to include something new than to eliminate something that's hurting them.
True, absolutely. In Ayurveda, we talk about how the spices are these powerful superfoods. And that's why I call them the super spices. I was sitting in a herbology class listening to the teacher talk about turmeric, ginger, cumin seeds, coriander, aloe, boswellia. And I thought, oh my gosh, like I use so many of these foods into my daily life. Cumin, coriander, of course, I'm Indian, we use those and turmeric, but how are you saying these things have those types of health benefits? So I ended up going further and doing my entire PhD dissertation on turmeric, the spice. And when I
Hmm.
did, I became a crazy evangelist of turmeric because it does have these profound health benefits. So I'll go over my not as favorite ones first. Ginger, anti inflammatory, gut healing, gut digestive support. Ayurveda teaches us have ginger tea or ginger lemon tea first thing in the morning, just as that way to kick off your digestion and metabolism and gut digestive fire. Or coriander, cilantro, heavy metal detoxer. Like you said, there are environmental toxins around us, and they are accumulating between the pesticides and the heavy metals and the poor air and the poor water. We're a bit screwed. So we need to have a plan in place called I detox regularly, daily, weekly, monthly, and annually to clear that out. And so just using spices in our daily food could be our way to get there. And then when it comes to turmeric, my absolute favorite, turmeric's anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, and it's
Mm.
very powerful for an anti-aging support because it affects the length of our telomere. So when it comes to our DNA, there is some research that shows that it's anti-aging in that way. It affects our sirtuins. But one of the favorite things I have about turmeric is when we age, we have these cells that form in the body called zombie cells. And those zombie cells are running around, knocking into everything, causing damage, causing oxidative stress, inflaming us, and then being troublemakers in the process. And turmeric goes in there like the ultimate janitor and just cleans house and gets rid of everything that doesn't belong. And we know over time there's things that accumulate that don't belong. So the fact that turmeric will go in there and handle that, to me, makes it one of the most powerful tools we have. And so I take it as an immune support, I take it as an anti-inflammatory, and then my research since my PhD has been around, can we build a turmeric that's so potent that Western medicine doctors can use it for their patients in pain and like lean on a natural support and give people a trusted natural support instead of the chemical solutions that we use now. And so that's just been really cool to see that it can be a very powerful support for chronic joint pain in people as well.
I didn't realize it was antibacterial, antifungal, and antiviral. That's interesting.
Isn't that awesome?
So you
So,
can
for
like
example,
ostensibly rub it on a cut and keep yourself from getting infected.
yes. So in ancient Ayurveda, it was always used topically. That's how
Oh,
it was used. Was, oh, you're cut. Let's put turmeric on it, which doesn't feel pleasant.
would you make
But
like a
my
paste out of it and put
yes,
it on? Okay.
exactly. You can make a paste. So even now, if someone's like, I'm in so much pain. I need a cream. I'm like, it's so messy. But you could make a turmeric paste. Just take turmeric and yogurt, for example, turmeric and honey. Put it on that place. Put saran wrap, and then try not to stain your whole house in the process.
That's very interesting. Did you know that coconut oil is also antibacterial, antifungal, antimicrobial?
I did not know that. That's
I've used
cool.
that. I've used that for things in the past. But normally, like if I'm like dealing with a cut or someone's like, I don't know, it feels like it's infected, I'm spraying iodine on that bad boy. That's like my go-to.
Sure. Or colloidal silver.
I don't have that, but when I lived in Panama in the jungle for like 6 months,
Okay.
and that's the only thing that they would use there, like to deal with cuts. They're like nothing else touches jungle rot like iodine does. So
Really? And
fun
it's
fact.
interesting because in Ayurveda, we teach about tongue scraping and oil pulling. So when I was
Ooh,
talking
I
about
want to talk about that
detoxing
too.
on a daily basis, you can tongue scrape with a copper tongue scraper. That gently scraping of the tongue is going to ignite your digestive fire, but it also detoxes all the organs of the body because we teach that on your tongue, all your organs are reflected, just like in reflexology, they're
Okay.
reflected on the bottom of your feet. But when it comes to oil pulling, I always say you can use coconut oil or sesame oil. But coconut oil, you're right, is antibacterial. So that's why it's so beneficial. It'll kill off anything in the oral microbiome that shouldn't be there while keeping the good. And then when you spit it out, make sure you spit it in the trash, not your toilet sink or shower, or you'll clog your pipes.
Oh, really? It doesn't go to the toilet. Interesting.
No, none of
Well,
your pipes. Because
good
in
to
Ayurveda, we
good to
use a
know.
lot of oil. So we don't want you to screw up your house.
Got it. Okay. Talk a little bit more about the daily detoxing and tell me when is the best time to do the oil pulling and do the tongue scraping? Because I have dabbled with those, but I've not been consistent.
Sure. So we teach about 12 different self care rituals to fit into your day. I pull a couple into the morning and the rest into the night because most of us have somewhere to go first thing in the morning, whether it's getting the kids to school or getting to work. So the first one is actually touch the floor, touch your forehead, and say thank you, setting an intention for the day. And it's interesting because I always thought, why did they make you touch the floor? Just like meditate in bed. What's the big deal? But there's a science to it. When you squat down, and touch the ground, you're going to compress your stomach and set off everything in motion for your first bowel movement. And it's so funny because people now message me and they're like, I do the thing you say and you fix my gut. That was not, I have so much more to teach, but cool if the easiest thing I teach works. So you start there. And then Ayurveda teaches us to hydrate first thing in the morning. You can do this before or after brushing your teeth, but making sure you have a glass of room temperature water. And we normally teach people to put it in a copper lined cup by their bedside overnight. So it's being mineralized overnight before you
Oh,
drink it. And copper has an antibacterial property to it. So 5,000 years ago, they knew use the copper for the benefits. Then going on from there, when you brush your teeth afterwards, I do tongue scraping. So I'll gently scrape the tongue 7 to 14 times, and you go, halfway up. Don't like gag yourself, but we are really detoxing with that first step of the day.
first
Then
step.
oil pulling right
Okay.
after that. So I oil pull, and sometimes I don't want oil on my teeth, so I will lightly brush again. But holding that oil in the mouth for 5 to 20 minutes and gently swishing it around the mouth collects all that bacteria and gunk and bad stuff in our mouth, and you spit it out. And what's good is our oral microbiome is tied to our gut microbiome. Our oral cavity is talking to our gut and telling it, hey, she's eating sugar, be ready to digest that, or she's eating protein. So this communication is important. So keeping this clean affects this. And I love that Ayurveda already knew that 5,000 years ago. And we know bacteria here affects heart and everything else. So it's just cool that the science showed that. And then going
Yeah.
from there, we teach about, taking your morning shower, getting fresh. And we also talk about before your shower, yoga, meditation, really creating the space and the groundedness for the day ahead. Then shower and start your day. And then the rituals I moved into the evening that you could have done in the morning. So on the weekends, you can do them in the morning if you have more time, are dry brushing. So taking a dry brush and gently brushing the body from your extremities all the way up towards your heart. You can start at the feet and move towards the heart. That's going to move the lymphatic system. So I love that one before bed because we want to activate and move that lymph before we sleep so the body can help us detox it. And then we teach another ritual called Abhyang massage. Abhyang massage means full body massage that you do yourself. So you can take, again, any food grade organic oil, coconut oil, sesame oil, any oil, olive oil even, lay down a towel. You can warm the oil if you like. And this is good for anyone who's anxious, stressed, overwhelmed, has dry joints, dry skin, stiff joints. And you basically gift that oil to your body. So you're not being what is the word? You're being generous with the oil. And you put that on your body from your feet all the way up to your neck. And then if you have hair loss or want even thicker, healthier hair, you can massage it into your hair as well.
Wow.
And that's
Okay.
a very grounding thing to do. It's going to improve your sleep quality. It's oleation of the body, creates really supple, healthy skin as well. So it's one of my favorites as well.
I like that. I like that there's a couple different practices you can include.
Yeah.
And I think that like some of these practices, or even like in my mind, like taking supplements,
Yeah.
all of these things reinforce an identity shift. And I think that one of the things that I see most often with people who are trying to make a change in their physical fitness and health is that they want to do a 21-day cleanse, they want to do a 6-week program, or they want to start a boot camp, but they're never really addressing the underlying issue, which is their identity is not that of a healthy person. And I think that there's two ways you can do that. Number one is you having like some sort of extreme experience where you go to a Tony Robbins event and you get all fired up, or you go to the doctor and he's like, you got cancer, like two sides of the same coin. But those are harder to manufacture and
Sure.
often not great. But the second way is by having a consistent like body of work that you can look back on and be like, this is who I am, this is what I do. And so by having things like tongue scraping or drinking a glass of water in the morning, or even like taking your fish oil, whatever it is, you are consistently reinforcing who you are and who you're becoming. So I love the idea of having these little detox things that you can add in. Maybe you don't take every single thing that Dr. Shivani just said, picking one or two and applying those to your daily life and incorporating in your morning or your PM routine is just a great way to continue to build the habit, build the consistency, and change your identity over time. So I love all of that.
I love it. Yeah, these are the habits and rituals that become who we are. So I
Mhm.
love that you shared that. It makes so much sense. We need to create the habits and rituals that make up who we are. And we oftentimes haven't committed to that new us that we need to be to get the benefits from all of this.
Yeah. Isn't it funny also what people hold on to from you? You're talking about like touching the floor, touching your forehead and saying thank you. Like people are like,
Yeah,
oh, that's changing my life. And you're like, that's like, that's like level one.
I
People
know.
always come to me and tell me like, I do what you say and I drink a glass of water in the morning. And I'm like, can we talk about undulating periodization? Can we talk about like the hip angle on a Bulgarian split squat? Like, let's talk about something fun. But they're like, water in the morning. Got it. Love that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Whatever.
it's the simple things. Like
Yeah.
people say, you fix my constipation. I'm like, okay, so was it the oleation of the gut lining with ghee on top of your food, or was it the turmeric because we reduce your inflammation? Was it the cumin seeds? They're like, no, the tongue scraper. I'm like, Okay, the $6
Great.
copper tongue scraper did it. I'm so happy. That's great.
Well, that's fantastic. Let's talk a little bit more about I want to go back to the spices a little bit because I'm a big fan of cooking at home. I think that that's one of the major life hacks that people are missing out on when they want to make a change in their health is just cooking more often at home. But I think that people often cook horrible food because they don't know and they don't spice their food correctly, or they cook food that sucks and then they're like ranch dressing, barbecue sauce. And you're like, you just put a little salt and pepper on that bad boy? Come on.
Yeah,
White people are the worst at this. They're like, I put a little salt on. You're like, no, cover it. Put it all on.
exactly.
So talk to us a little bit about like using some of these spices when we're cooking. I know you have like a very powerful turmeric that you can take as a
Supplement.
like exogenous
Yeah.
supplement. But talk to me a little about how we can use these in our cooking to actually create healthier, tastier meals that don't require us slathering them with barbecue sauce.
For sure. I agree with you. If the food is bland and boring, we're gonna pour a lot on it. Like I in my fridge, I have a whole shelf called hot sauce because I want everything hot and spicy. So I'm
It
always
has to
adding
be.
just yeah.
Yes.
And I'm like,
People don't get
Cholula is
it.
not enough. Like we've got to go bigger and heavier on that. But it's funny, I visited a friend of mine, she's Caucasian American, and her spice cabinet was like basil, oregano, salt. And I was like, what? I have three spice cabinets, one full on one full drawer, under it a full drawer, and then in the pantry, the backups. Because how could we possibly live without spices? And then even in the pantry, we have like gallon size jars with spices that are ready, ground or whole, and then a fridge. Like maybe it's because I'm Indian, but the spices are the basis of the food. Like a vegetable is just the medium through which all the spices get to you in a way. It's funny how obsessed we are with it. But yes, I think we have such an ability to flavor our food, especially when we move into this world of health and wellness. So many of us are eating high protein, clean, lean. We're eating low carb. We're eating more fiber, more plant based to get our
And we
whole
hate every
nutrition.
second of it.
Yeah, and sometimes it drives you nuts because it's so bland. And then you know the sauces are bad and full of crap, so you can't buy too many sauces that'll do the job for you. And so that's where the spice world can come in. Because in my home, we do cook fresh, proper Indian food at least 4 days a week. So we're getting all those spices. And so I really encourage everyone in an Indian household, we actually have a box that we keep with the spices open and ready. So we're not using shaker bottles. We're using teaspoons. So I can get like 3 heaping teaspoons of coriander into every dish. But taking something as simple as coriander or dried cilantro is going to add a layer of flavor. Adding cumin seeds to everything you can, because cumin is a pre-digestive. So when people tell me, "Oh, I'm trying veganism. I'm trying to eat beans more for their fiber," but it gives me the gas and bloating. I'm like, you guys just don't know the spices. We use a spice called cumin and another spice called hing, Hing. Putting a pinch of hing, it's really strong, and maybe 2 pinches of the cumin into oil and heating that up before you put the dish in there of beans or lentils from, in my case, the Instapot, will help you digest those way more easily. And then you don't have any of those after effects that you're talking about. And then any dish that I cook is going to have turmeric in it. We always have black pepper or a healthy fat to absorb the benefits of that turmeric. So remember that black pepper increases the absorption of turmeric by 2000%. So don't forget it. Red chili pepper, of course, because we like everything hot. We add salt. We have black pepper built into a spice called garam masala, which is a mixture of spices. We like incorporating fennel, cardamom. I mean, you can get fancy, or we just keep it pretty basic with the list I gave before: fennel and cardamom, and that can add so much more flavor to the food. So maybe if you're cooking your healthy meats for the night, add turmeric black pepper. It's not even going to change the flavor that much. Or make it more Asian and throw a couple more of these things in there, or make it Indian and add these spices. But by doing so, it's going to taste better. It'll create variety. It'll keep things from being so boring. And you're going to get the health benefits. The majority of the spices are anti inflammatory, antioxidant, immune supportive, just like any superfood. So a lot of times we're stuffing superfoods into protein shakes. I used to do that with maca and matcha and everything I could find, goji berries. And I didn't like them. I did it, but I didn't like any of it. And so now that I've studied the spices, I just use a lot more of my own spices instead.
I do a lot of barbecuing. Will you use like cumin or turmeric as like a rub, like
Yeah, you can.
on meat?
Yeah, why not?
All
Just
right.
make sure you mix a little black pepper in or any healthy fat. Either way, it'll absorb.
The black pepper or the healthy fats, it's like you can sub those in and out.
Yeah, either. I mean, both is even better, but either
Okay.
is fine.
Got it. Just make sure you get the absorption in.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk a little bit about gut health and kind of, and, like you mentioned early on that you were dealing with, you had taken a lot of antibiotics.
Hmm.
And so you probably had to rebuild some of the good bacteria in your gut. How are you able to do that? What are some of the steps that someone could take who has, had their kids taking a lot of antibiotics over this course of the winter, or perhaps they themselves are dealing with some gut issues and don't necessarily have the full gut microbiome? What are the first steps, and what should they be looking at in order to rebuild?
So, Ayurveda always taught us that gut health is the center of all health. Your gut is your mental health, it's your mood, it's your immune system, it's everything. And so now I love that modern science teaches us that gut brain axis, gut microbiome, all these things really matter, that a gut inflamed is a brain inflamed, and all these ideas are finally coming out in the science and being more widely accepted. So, Ayurveda has a pretty big toolkit for gut health. We always say that that first bowel movement in the morning is key. It's not to be skipped. All of you who are constipated, do whatever you can to get unconstipated as fast as possible. And it's a lot of people. Then a lot of people are dealing with leaky gut. We have no idea the level of gut dysbiosis in this country, but when you talk to the people who make the stool tests and ask them, they're like, oh yeah, over 50%, over 60% of the tests are coming back with leaky gut. That's just the state of affairs when we're doing this testing. And I've seen that for myself. I have it if I don't watch it. And I do a stool test on myself every other year. It'll come back. If you're not watching it, if you're not managing stress, if you're not managing how you're eating, how you're supplementing, if you're not watching out for the pesticide and toxic burden on that gut, it'll take a toll. Many of us like to travel. Turns out I traveled so much, my kid picked up a parasite and I didn't even know it until he became really symptomatic. He never shared that it was a gut issue, and I realized it later. So it's really about paying attention to how do I build profound and robust gut health every day. So my step one would be in the morning, hydrate first to make sure you get that bowel movement and do whatever it takes to have that bowel movement. Maybe it's hot water. Maybe it's ginger lemon tea, honey, if you don't like ginger lemon. I do that a lot. If I ever go out and I have drinks on a Friday night for a dinner, the next morning my gut's not happy. I'm like, uh-oh, first job. Let's make the gut happy. You could also use aloe vera juice. There's a lot of aloe vera juice out there that tastes like nothing. There's a brand called George's that I love that tastes like nothing. It tastes like water. So easy ways to reset the gut. Then going through your day, look at your meals. Are you eating 3 regular meals a day? Ayurveda teaches us open up that digestive fire, use it, and then close it down. Don't snack all day. Don't munch all day. Don't waste your gut digestive enzymes on wasting your time like that. Really focus on your meals within whatever fasting window you hold. And Ayurveda did talk about a fasting window so that gut could process other things overnight. We're meant to clear inflammation and clear the lymphatic system overnight, repair, rejuvenate, not deal with some big meal we choose to have too late at night. And so, gut health and gut repair really comes down to all the different practices we do, which add up. Even tongue scraper oil pulling can help with gut. And then when it came to building my own gut, to be honest, it took years. It took really building in different practices, letting go of all inflammatory foods, understanding what food intolerances I have, letting go of those as well. I shifted to being gluten free. That was a huge game changer for me. I can tell when I eat gluten how horribly disruptive it is, so I just don't touch it. I avoid most inflammatory foods. I'm not drinking alcohol maybe twice a month max. Sugar, I choose not to eat because added sugar is poison. So, really letting go of the things that are damaging and then bringing in the good. Are we eating enough fiber? Are we eating enough good things and supporting that gut? Are we taking medical grade probiotics? All of these things really add up to shifting the gut microbiome. And then realizing sometimes when you're in stressful moments, hey, this is damaging. How much do I want to allow this to damage me? And I do that sometimes. I'll be stressed and I'll say, you know what? That's going to damage your gut. Just stop it. And I'll take a step back and not let things harm this thing that matters to us most.
Hmm. It's fascinating. I
Yeah.
like that. I like the step-by-step process there as well. Dr. Shivani, this has been incredibly informative. There's a lot to think about and unpack here. It's something you could probably come back and listen to this 2 or 3 times to get all the information you just dropped. But I know you have a couple of supplements that you use personally and you recommend. I'll put them in the show notes, but can you tell us where we can go to grab those?
Yes, for sure. So my website is drshivani.gupta.com. That's SHIVANIGUPTA. And I'm at dr.shivanigupta on Instagram. And from my website, you'll find my supplements, fusionary formulas. And we made you a special code, low carb hustle. We'll give them 15% off.
Oh, amazing. We love that. Well, I'm going to grab some turmeric. So I'm just going to be right back and hit that up because I feel like I need that in my life now.
Absolutely. I think we all do. Turmeric is a powerful preventive, and then it's a powerful support for all of our inflammation and pain. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. Anything you want to leave us with before we bounce?
I just want to say that you are an incredible host. I've loved talking to you, and I can't wait to listen to more episodes of your podcast. This has been so fun. And my final message to everyone is we have the ability to build health sovereignty every single day. We have the ability to approach our health from a completely different vantage point than the one that we've been programmed with. And we don't have to seek external help. We need to just learn from people who've gone through this ahead of us, who can mentor us to create those shifts. I love Ayurvedic medicine, but I also love all the integrative specialties that exist. So it's really about building your custom toolkit for your bio individuality to give you that sovereignty and freedom and vibrancy that you deserve.
Preach. Love to hear that. Thank you so much for your time today. This has been amazing.
Thank you.